Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening what amounts to a 10-year incident report on a total and completely avoidable human catastrophe.
Yeah, we're not talking about a natural disaster or anything like that. We're looking at a slow-motion wreck that was really sparked by one single night of, well, of glorious pretense.
Exactly. Our mission here is almost forensic. We want to trace the origin of a decade of just grinding misery back to a single deep-seated desire.
And one catastrophic moment of vanity.
That's right.
We have to understand the specific psychological environment here that let this whole disaster grow.
We're focusing on a woman named Mathilde Loisel. She's described as beautiful, charming, born into a family of clerks, but she feels, profoundly misplaced.
Violently misplaced, even. Her suffering, it wasn't, physical, it was emotional. She was absolutely convinced she was, and I'm quoting here, born for all delicacies and luxuries.
But her reality was, well, it was the opposite. She married a small clerk in the Ministry of Public Instruction.
And right there, that's the conflict. The source of her torment wasn't, say, hunger. It was her actual surroundings, the poverty of her apartment, the worn-out seats, even the sight of her humble little maid.
All of these details tortured and indignant her. It's incredible.
It is. And her fantasies weren't just about being comfortable. They were so specific, so unattainable.
We're talking about silent antechambers, oriental tapestries, huge bronze torches.
Exquisite dinners on marvelous dishes, whispered gallantries from famous men. She wasn't just dreaming of being rich. She was dreaming of being admired within a very specific, very elite social circle.
And because she didn't have that, she would just weep for days out of despair.
It creates this foundational tension, this deep emotional vulnerability that's just fueled by this desire to be envied, to be alluring, to be seen as important. She is basically a powder keg waiting for a match.
And that match arrives. One evening, her husband, M. Loisel, comes home looking, as the source says, glorious. He's holding this wide, formal envelope.
An invitation to an exclusive reception at the Ministry of Public Instruction.
And he is so excited. He says he had infinite difficulty getting it, that they're highly sought after. He really genuinely thought she would be happy.
But of course she wasn't. Happiness is impossible if the foundation is just pure insecurity. Her reaction is,
yeah,
it's just devastatingly petulant.
She throws the card down, just murmurs, "What do you want me to do with that?"
The focus immediately shifts. It's not about the honor of the invitation. It's about the humiliation of what she'll wear. She's basically saying, this invitation just proves how poor I am.
He is completely aghast. He sees her crying, and her impatience just boils over. What do you want me to wear?
And this leads us straight to that first critical point of no return, the first big sacrifice. She calculates that a suitable outfit will cost 400 francs.
Let's stop there for a second. 400 francs. M. Loisel, just to stop her tears, immediately offers up the exact sum he had saved for himself.
For his one simple pleasure. A summer trip, lark shooting near Nanterre with his friends. The source says he goes a little pale, but he gives it up instantly.
And you have to wonder, right? Was there no option for him to say, Mathilde, look, this is all we have, and it's for my trip?
I think he just wanted peace. Monsieur Loisel is defined by his desire for simplicity. 400 francs, it's a huge sum for a clerk, but maybe in his mind it was a manageable one-time expense to solve this huge emotional crisis.
A temporary solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't see the spiral coming. He just sees her suffering, and he wants it to stop. So he tells her, get a beautiful dress, no argument. He gives up his only joy for the year.
So the dress is bought, but as the day of the ball gets closer, the anxiety is still there. She is, quote, sad, worried, anxious. Why wasn't the dress enough?
Because it was never just about the dress. It was about creating an appearance of total, flawless wealth. A dress is just one piece of that illusion.
Right. So now it's about the accessories. She refuses the idea of wearing natural flowers.
Flatly refuses. She says, there is nothing more humiliating than to look poor among rich women. That word, humiliating, it's key.
Right.
The fear of being seen as poor is far worse than actually being poor.
That fear drives the next and really the fatal decision. Her husband, always the practical one, suggests, go find your friend Madame Forestier and ask her to lend you some jewelry.
It's such a simple solution to what she feels is this massive existential crisis.
So she does. She goes to her wealthy former schoolmate, and Madame Forestier is just completely open. She brings out a large coffer and says, choose, my dear.
And Mathilde tries things on. Bracelets, a pearl necklace, the Venetian cross. She hesitates. She can't decide.
But then She finds it. In a black satin box, she discovers what's called a superb diamond river.
And this is the moment. The source describes how her heart began to beat with immoderate desire. Her hands were actually trembling as she fastened it.
She's in ecstasy in front of the mirror.
This is it. This is the peak moment of false fulfillment. This is the life she believes she was born for, and it's built entirely on borrowed status. It's a perfect simulation.
And when she asks, can you lend me that, only that, she's not just asking for a necklace, she's asking for permission to live out her fantasy, just for one night.
And permission is granted. The day of the ball comes, and for Mathilde, it is an absolute triumph.
She was more pretty than all. Elegant, smiling, drunk with pleasure. Everyone noticed her, even the minister. She was dancing in a cloud of happiness, just fueled by all that admiration.
But the contrast here is so stark. While she's in this glamorous, intoxicated cloud, what's M. Loisel doing?
Oh, he's been asleep since midnight in a little side room with 3 other husbands whose wives were also having fun.
Exactly. His reality is dull and exhausting. Hers is intoxicating and, well, completely temporary.
The crash back to reality comes at 4 in the morning. He finds her, and he throws this modest, ordinary coat he brought over her shoulders.
And she feels it instantly, that jarring clash between the poverty of the coat and the elegance of the ball gown. She wants to run, to flee, before the other women in their rich furs can see her.
She knows the illusion is over. That coat is the first physical sign that she's returning to her real life.
So they rush out. They walk toward the Seine, shivering, looking for a cab. They finally find one of those old nocturnal cabs, the kind that, as the source puts it, seem ashamed of their misery during the day.
They get home to the Rue des Martyrs. He's already thinking he has to be at the ministry at 10. But Mathilde, she stops in front of the mirror. She wants one last look at her glory.
And she screams.
I no longer have Madame Forestier's river.
The catastrophe is instantaneous. M. Loisel is aghast. They search everywhere, in the folds of the dress, the coat, the pockets. Nothing.
She's sure she felt it when they left the ministry, but they didn't get the cab number. The silence in that apartment must have been just deafening.
And M. Loisel's sense of duty just kicks in immediately. While she's paralyzed with shock, he gets dressed again and retraces the entire route on foot, in the cold.
He comes back at 7 in the morning, empty-handed. He goes to the police. He put ads in the newspapers offering a reward. He calls the cab companies. He does everything right.
He does. His actions are driven by this inherent honor, which is such a powerful contrast to the vanity that caused the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
But when nothing turns up, he dictates the only option they think they have left.
The lie. They have to write to Madame Forestier and say the clasp broke and they're having it repaired.
And that lie, that one little lie to buy them some time, it seals their fate.
A week later, all hope is gone. They have to replace it. They find an identical necklace in a shop. The price, 40,000 francs.
They managed to get it for 36,000. But for a clerk, that's an absolutely unfathomable sum of money.
So how do they get it?
Well, the financial logistics are just terrifying. M. Loisel had 18,000 francs, which was his entire inheritance from his father. For the other half, the other 18,000, he had to take on ruinous commitments.
And let's be clear about what that means. A ruinous commitment from a usurer. That's not just a big loan from a bank, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's social and economic death. Usury is a predatory lending. The interest rates are exponentially high. By signing those papers, he was guaranteeing that this debt would just compound and compound relentlessly.
So he wasn't just paying back 18,000 francs.
No. He was taking out a mortgage on the entire rest of his life. His wages, his time, his future, all of it was signed away, guaranteeing what the text calls black misery.
The new necklace is bought and returned. Madame Forestier, she's a little annoyed about the delay, but she accepts it. She never even opens the case.
And can you imagine Mathilde's terror in that moment? She's terrified her friend will open it, see it's a replacement, and call her a thief.
But is that really the fear, being called a criminal? Or is the deeper fear the humiliation of admitting she lost something she couldn't afford to borrow in the first place?
I think it's the latter,
Wow.
100%. Admitting the loss means admitting the poverty she spent her whole life trying to deny.
Yeah.
And that fear cemented the lie. And their 10-year sentence began.
The text says Mathilde took on her new life heroically. They fired their maid. They moved into a garret, an attic room under the roof.
And the change in her labor is just staggering. She goes from dreaming of tapestries to doing the gross household tasks and odious kitchen job.
The details are brutal. Washing greasy dishes, scrubbing floors, haggling at the market. She's transformed into a Woman of the people.
And all the while, M. Loisel is doing his own unseen labor. He's working his regular job all day, and then at night he's copying documents for 5 sous a page. A pittance.
This dual crushing burden goes on for a decade, 10 years just to pay off the 36,000 francs, plus all that compounding interest from the usurers.
It physically transforms them, especially Mathilde. 10 years later, we get to the final act, the unveiling.
She's unrecognizable. Old, strong, harsh. Her hair is a mess. Her hands are red. She speaks loudly. But sometimes she sits and thinks about that ball. How singular, how changeable life is. How little it takes to lose or save you.
Then comes the chance encounter. One Sunday on the Champs-Élysées, she sees Madame Forestier, who is, of course, still young, still beautiful, still alluring.
The contrast must have been just devastating, and Mathilde decides now that the debt is finally paid, she's going to tell her everything.
She walks up to her old friend, who doesn't recognize her at all. She stammers, "You must be mistaken."
When Mathilde says who she is, Madame Forestier is shocked. Oh, my poor Mathilde, how changed you are.
And then Mathilde delivers this confession, but she almost blames her friend for it.
I have had very hard days and much misery, and that because of you. She tells the whole story, losing the necklace, the 10 years of toil to pay for the replacement. And she actually smiles with a sort of tragic pride, saying the new one was so identical that Madame Forestier never even noticed.
She thinks her sacrifice was noble, complete. And that is the exact moment the floor just drops out from under her whole world.
Madame Forestier stops dead in the street. She asks, "You say you bought a diamond river to replace mine."
And then she delivers that final, crushing truth.
Oh, my poor Mathilde. But mine was false. It was worth 500 francs at most.
Unbelievable. 10 years. 10 years of poverty, of back-breaking labor, of destroying her husband's future, all for an object that was worth barely more than the dress cost in the first place.
The irony is just. It's overwhelming. They endured a decade of this self-imposed servitude, believing they were honorably replacing a treasure, when the original was essentially worthless paste jewelry.
The cost of their vanity was infinitely greater than the value of the thing they actually lost. That small seed of insecurity, that one night of false glory, it grew into a decade of total and totally unnecessary misery.
And it all comes back to silence, doesn't it? The silence and the lack of trust.
Absolutely. Think about it. Madame Forestier never asked about the delay, and Mathilde never ever confessed the truth. And so it makes you wonder, right? How often does that paralyzing mix of pride and fear and shame cause people to build their own prisons? Prisons that a single terrifying moment of honesty could have just dissolved completely. Something for you to consider the next time a lie seems easier than the truth.